The Fraser Valley real estate market has cooled off significantly over the past number of months. However, that may be about to change. With the two most recent interest rate decreases, another one projected for September, as well as two more projected after that before the end of the year, and you tie into that the fact that we're coming to the end of summer, heading into fall, which is typically a little bit of a busier market, things could really turn around. So what exactly should we expect over the next couple of months, as well as what's going on in the market right now? Well, in order to find out, let's dive into the data. So to start us off, let's take a look at the news release from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. Cool summer market persists in Fraser Valley with second slowest July sales in a decade. Sluggish seasonally adjusted sales and a continued rise in inventory has the Fraser Valley market slowly shifting to favor buyers. Now, quick note, this is from August 2nd, we are looking at the July stats as the August stats aren't out yet. The Fraser Valley Real Estate Board recorded 1,230 sales in July, down by 7% over last month and down by 26% over the 10-year seasonal average. So as mentioned, the market has cooled off, even when seasonally adjusted, but let's take a deeper dive and see what else we can find. Inventory levels in the Fraser Valley reached a 10-year seasonally adjusted high in July with active listings at 8,731, up 5% over June and 41% higher than July of 2023. So this is a big number that we want to be following, is the level of inventory in the Fraser Valley. Now, one thing to note is that when we look at some of our other stats, the number won't quite be as high because by the sounds of it, this is including commercial listings as well, where we're focused on residential. But in reality, it doesn't make a massive difference as that's just a smaller part of the market and the majority of these are residential properties. But moving on, a quick look here at the single family detached. So benchmark prices were 1.529, which increased 1.1% from June 2024, decreased 0.5% from July of 2023. So slightly up month over month, but slightly down, almost even in all honesty, compared to last year. Townhomes, $848,800 for benchmark, decreased 0.3% compared to June 2024 and decreased 0.1% compared to July of last year. So once again, pretty flat there. And apartments, $551,000 for benchmark prices, more or less pretty flat compared to June 2024, actually exactly, and decreased 0.3% compared to July of 2023. So price points essentially exactly where they were 1 year ago, but where they headed next, that's going to be the important question. And just before we break it down by cities within the Fraser Valley, one last thing I wanted to highlight was the average number of days to sell a single family detached home was 31, condos were 28, and townhomes took 25. So this is honestly a pretty healthy market and healthy timeframes for these types of properties to sell. We're not in the less than 2-week time frame that it was during COVID and times when the market is super hot. This is something that we'd actually like to see. We just gotten too used to properties selling very quickly the first week that they're listed, whereas this is actually a lot better, honestly, for both buyers and sellers if you are purchasing afterwards. Of course, if you're a seller and you're not buying anything afterwards, then it really doesn't matter. You obviously want to have the quickest sale, but when we're looking at it holistically and you have to transact on both ends with the buy and the sell, you want to have enough time to be able to find something and not be in a mad panic. So as we already briefly looked at was the difference in price points, and as we can kind of see what the trend has been from we'll call it the trough was January 2023 after peak pricing back in around March or April, dependent on property type. We've kind of been more or less flat aside from December of 2023. Again, a small dip in the market, but the last few months it has been relatively flat. Now, something to keep in mind when we're looking at the different metrics or price points where we have HPI benchmark pricing, median pricing, and average pricing is the fact that benchmark is going to give you more of a better understanding of the overall trend that's happening in the market, but it is delayed. So we're not really going to see the effects of that for 1 to 2 months afterwards. So keep that in mind. It is a better metric to measure the average house because something like an average price point is going to be highly dictated by the number of higher price or lower price listings, specifically in the higher end in the luxury market. Because if we have just a few sales that are at those higher price points, it's going to drag that up, especially if we only have a few sales to pull from. When we're looking at the market as a whole for the Fraser Valley, it's not going to be as impactful because there's going to be a larger number of sales. However, if you're breaking it down by smaller neighborhoods and there's only 10 sales, it can be extremely drastic. But as you can see, they more or less stay somewhat similar. But I do like to look at the median price points on a short-term basis to see kind of what these short-term trends are doing. So as you can kind of see, it looks like apartments were slightly down month over month, whereas townhomes were just slightly up and detached was also just slightly up. Again, we need to see 3 months in a row to actually show us a trend. So this isn't the best indicator of what's happening right now. It is a mix of looking at the data as well as some more anecdotal evidence of what's happening on the ground and things that won't necessarily show up in the data. People like myself who are on the ground, who are at showings, have listings, can see the levels of whether it's showings or offers or just people out in the market. We have to kind of combine those things as well as even just like incoming calls and number of people that are reaching out to mortgage brokers for pre-approvals or having these conversations. Moving on to the sales to active listings ratio, just to get an idea. So detached is the slowest at 11.3. Keep in mind, under 12% is a buyer's market. Between 12 to 20 is a balanced, and over 20% is a seller's market. So townhomes pretty comfortably in a seller's market, apartments in a pretty balanced market, and detached just slightly on the edge of a buyer's market. And this is definitely what we're seeing. Townhomes definitely holding up the best, and it is just that middle inventory that works for the most people, especially due to the fact that detached is just a little too far to reach for a lot of people these days. We are moving into what I consider a townhome economy. The majority of people are probably going to have to, I hate to say the word settle, but settle for a townhome because of the fact that 1.5, 1.6 is the average price for a detached in Surrey, Langley, some of these other markets. And of course, that goes down a little bit further the further out you go. But it's just getting more and more difficult to get into a detached home, especially with immigration, population rising, interest rates being high for the last number of years, the massive transfer of wealth between generations, and all these other factors. So we're going to continue to see that, as well as the fact that this is kind of that middle market between people who are upsizing from a condo to a townhome, people who are downsizing from a detached to a townhome, or just in general, people not necessarily wanting to take on as much debt or monthly costs in having a detached home because they don't need the space and costs are just high. And in reality, we are pretty privileged in this country and what we're able to have and do, but I won't even touch on that topic anymore, and we will dive into some more data. Thank you to ZLT. So just going to quickly look at detached across the Fraser Valley, and first of all, we will take a look at where the highest median price points are. So White Rock, the highest, 1.67. Langley, just behind at 1.58. Surrey, 1.56. North Delta, 1.39. A little bit surprising there, to be honest. However, there were only 22 sales, so that kind of tells you the tale. We got to take that with a grain of salt. Abbotsford, 1.16 million, and Mission at 1.05 million. Now, the other metric I want to look at here is months of inventory. So months of inventory, there's a few different thought processes here, but typically between 1 and 4 months, some people will say 3, that is going to be a seller's market, because essentially the thought process around this, or the theory, is if all sales stopped, how many months would it take to sell the remaining inventory if there was no new inventory coming to market and sales were occurring at the same rate as they currently are? So Anything under 3, again, some people will say 4, so at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Let's just use 4. It's going to be a seller's market. Between 4 and 6 is a balanced market, and over 6 is going to be a buyer's market. So White Rock at 19.3 months of inventory. So lots of opportunity there. Surrey, 10.1. North Delta, 8.7, Mission, 7.8, Langley, 7.4, and Abbotsford, 7.4. So we can see pretty clearly that all cities within the Fraser Valley are in a buyer's market in terms of months of inventory for detached properties. Now, taking a look at townhomes, White Rock, once again, 17 months of inventory. North Delta, 5.5, so in a balanced market. Surrey at 5, Abbotsford at 3.7, Mission at 3, and Langley at 2.6. And Langley townhomes have definitely been performing the best across all these property types and have maintained their price the best as well. And then moving on to apartments, we've got White Rock at 7.5, Surrey at 6.7, Mission at 4.9, North Delta at 4.5, Langley at 4.1, and Abbotsford at 4. So condos in Abbotsford actually selling quite well in comparison to the rest of the property types here. So based on that information, we can see that for buyers, your best bet pretty much across the board is going to be White Rock for apartments, townhomes, and detached. However, there's also a pretty good opportunity for detached in the Surrey market as well, and honestly across all of them, but if we're getting specific. And for sellers, your best bets are going to be Langley and Abbotsford in terms of condos, and then Langley, Abbotsford, and Mission in terms of detached. So what this means and what I'm seeing right now is that if you're a first-time buyer or an upsizer, this is a great opportunity to do so. Now, the best opportunity, in my opinion, is going to be to go from a townhome to a detached, just because of the fact that the townhome market is the busiest and detached is the slowest. And this can be even more pronounced if you're moving from a bigger market per se, such as Surrey or Langley, out into a place like Abbotsford, Mission, Chilliwack, something of that nature. And this is what a lot of my clients have been doing this year, that have the ability to and that want to actually just get out of the city, don't necessarily have to be there, whether it's work from home or run a business, that they can be anywhere in the Lower Mainland. Completely understand if you need to be in Vancouver on a daily basis, maybe this doesn't work for you. But if it is something that you're thinking about, again, it could be a great opportunity. Now, if you're a downsizer, dependent on what exactly you're planning to do, I think you should probably wait a little bit longer, especially if you do live in a detached home and that downsize is going to be somewhere within the Lower Mainland still. Because I think that we're going to see a better opportunity for you, whether that's 6 or 12 months from now. If you have the ability to wait that long, you're going to have a better overall market, better conditions in order to sell. And when we see prices rise, detached typically is going to rise by the most in comparison to the rest, and then the other properties will follow suit. But there's always a bit of a delay behind the detached market and the attached market, so I'd say just hold off for a little while. And if you've been considering making a move or purchasing your first property, and you want to have a further discussion on top of what was discussed today based on your unique situation, I'm always happy to have a no pressure conversation. All you got to do is scroll down and click the first link in the description and book a call with me at a time that works best for you. And before you get out of here, make sure you leave a comment down below letting me know what you think is going to happen over the next couple of months here and even in a year from now. Will the Bank of Canada actually follow through and decrease rates 3 times by the end of the year and then continue to do so into the next year? And will that be enough to stroke buyer demand? Or will we see a flood of listings hit the market as we head into the fall with sellers who are expecting buyers to return to the market? We'll just have to see, but thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out another video on my channel before you get out of here, and we'll see you in the next video.